Module number 7 from the Permaculture resource book, Farming. This module is about farming crops to eat, trade, or sell. Some important things to do are: use agriculture land optimally. Maximize production using minimal expenses in the most sustainable ways. An important thing to do also is form a community cooperative and farmers group which can work together, share resources, expenses, techniques, and knowledge. Also, improve techniques for storing, marketing, and distributing produce. Working together in the community should be the main focus. These ideas can be implemented for any agricultural development, from small kitchen gardens to large community agriculture farms, on small areas of land or vast areas of land, on flat land or sloped land. Farmers already have a lot of knowledge and traditions related to agriculture. Therefore, this module only offers some additional knowledge and techniques to help support more sustainable agriculture. The land, environment, and people. Agriculture is a part of the land and environment around it. Wherever agriculture is practiced, it will affect and be affected by the land, environment, and people. Agriculture is affected by climate, like sun, rain, and wind, surrounding land and land use, surrounding vegetation, and animal life. Water supply and quality, soil type and quality, erosion and landslides, distance from houses and towns, resources available to farmers and workers, such as seed, tools, fertilizers, harvesting equipment, and so on, and transportation and marketing of produce. If there is already an understanding about what affects us, we can choose to use simple techniques and solutions to maximize production. Some solutions could be using terraces and swales to protect the soil and prevent landslides, using natural fertilizers and pesticides instead of using chemical fertilizers and pesticides because chemical materials create pollution and other problems. Improving agriculture conditions. The following ideas and techniques will help you to improve crop quality while protecting the land for future use. Windbreaks. Wind is needed for agriculture and life in general. However, strong winds can damage plants and trees and cause many other problems for animals and people. A windbreak can be 3 to 4 rows of trees planted together, which will slow down strong winds but still allow soft winds to enter the garden. Windbreaks are very useful for flat lands and areas that have especially strong winds. Even small windbreaks can still benefit large areas of land. Direct benefits of windbreaks for agriculture include: reduces plant stress, therefore increasing plant growth. Reduces plant damage caused by wind. Reduces erosion. Reduces water evaporation from plants and soil, which conserves water. Stabilizes soil temperature. The soil will not become too hot or too cold. Stable soil temperature is important for healthy plant roots and soil biota. windbreak system. Other benefits. More trees will attract insects and birds, which will increase pollination rates. Increasing pollination rates will increase the amount of resulting produce. Using legume trees as windbreaks will increase the amount of nitrogen in the soil. Windbreak trees provide animal fodder, nuts, oils, wood, mulch, fiber, medicines, and much more. Animals will be healthier because their stress will reduce. House areas will become cooler and more comfortable to live in. Windbreak location. By answering the following questions, you can decide where the best locations for windbreaks are. Which direction do strong winds come from? Which direction does wind most often come from? What needs protection from strong winds? A 5-meter high windbreak will slow down winds for 100 meters of land behind the windbreak. A 10-meter high windbreak will slow down winds for 200 meters of land. Beware. Windbreak tree roots will reduce productivity of any crop grown next to them. Shade from large trees, when they are fully grown, will affect crops around them. Because of this, it is better not to use trees that are too tall for windbreaks. Constructing windbreaks. A windbreak needs 3 or 4 rows of trees to function well. This will be thick enough to slow strong winds and direct winds to rise or fall. Use trees that will still allow soft winds to pass through, such as casuarina, moringa, tamarind, acacia, and bamboo. Trees with very thick leaves, like jackfruit, avocado, and mango, are not the best trees to use. Use a variety of tree types when planting. Bamboo and legumes grow quickly and are good to use because they will become functional faster. The length and shape of the windbreak will depend on what you need to protect. Wind will flow around the sides, so make the windbreak longer than the area which is being protected. Windbreaks can be made zigzagged, in straight lines, in curved lines, in separate sections. Windbreak maintenance. Protection from animals must be provided while the windbreak trees are still young. Replant where any trees die, if possible when the trees are still small, so the windbreak will grow evenly. Don't cut all the bottom branches, because the trees should be able to slow wind that might flow below the trees. To achieve best results, try to keep the tree shapes whole and even. Smart ideas. Use taller windbreaks to protect tree crops. 10 to 15 meters high is best. Use fire-resistant trees to reduce potential fire problems. Swales and water storage. Erosion and flooding can cause serious damage. It can destroy crops, animals, and even houses. Erosion can take away large amounts of soil, and the soil could enter into irrigation canals and paddies, which will cause even more problems. Large floods or flash floods often happen in some areas of Indonesia. Some floods can be prevented and some cannot. However, the effects of flooding can always be minimized. Remember, this booklet is geared for Indonesia first. Swales and other water storage techniques can be used to catch and store water, which will help to prevent erosion, stagnant water, and large amounts of overflow water. Planting trees will also reduce the risk of erosion and help the swales to function better. Make swales so that they start where water most often builds up or collects. Making swales can include all lands along the water's path. To achieve best results, work together on a community level. For more information about planning and constructing swales and other water storage techniques, see Module 8, Forests, Tree Crops, and Bamboo. Fences. Fences are very important for protecting your crops. Living fences provide mulch and animal fodder. Fences can also function as windbreaks. Stop burning. Burning land must be stopped because it causes and increases erosion. It destroys all organic matter and soil biota which are needed to keep soil healthy. It kills plants which could be used as mulch material. Fire can spread easily, especially when there is a lot of wind, which can damage crops. This happens most often during dry seasons. It reduces bird and insect life, which function as pollinators and natural pest predators. Increase the amount and variety of trees. More trees and more variety of trees growing on your land will provide more benefits. Most importantly, trees will provide protection for soil and help to prevent erosion. Trees will also attract birds and insects, which will increase pollination and function as natural pest predators. Natural patterns. Straight lines and squares do not exist naturally in nature. Follow the natural patterns of land. If you observe the land's natural shape, water flows, soil quality, sun direction, and so on, the land will tell you which shapes will work best for your land. Terraces and swales are good examples of using natural patterns to create productive land. Working with nature and natural patterns will conserve energy and resources, maximize land productivity, improve the land's long-term sustainability. Improving land for agriculture. Healthy, living soil is the basis for good agriculture. Agriculture practices should give extra focus to soil improvement from year after year. Organic mulch and fertilizers. There are many ways to produce natural fertilizers for your land. Mulch. Use plant waste and leaves as mulch material. Some legume trees such as Leucaena, Acacia, Sesbania, and Moringa can be planted between cropland to provide mulch. Besides providing nutrients to the soil, mulch will also improve soil because it provides organic materials and food for soil biota. By using mulch, water will stay in the soil for much longer and erosion levels will decrease. To achieve best results, mulch must be used regularly. For more information about mulch, see Module 4, Healthy Soil. Liquid fertilizer. Liquid fertilizer is a good natural fertilizer because it is a concentrated compost. This fertilizer is very strong and must be diluted before being used. It can be used in many ways. It can be applied directly to the land or into irrigation water. To achieve best results, use liquid fertilizer before planting, during crop growth, and after harvest. For more information about how to make and use liquid fertilizer, see Module 4, Healthy Soil. EM, Effective Microorganisms. EM is a liquid which helps to increase the amount of microorganisms in the soil. which will improve soil quality and increase crop production. EM is good to use for agriculture because it can be easily used on large areas of land. It can be combined with any type of organic fertilizer, including liquid compost and mulch. Microorganisms in EM will naturally and quickly multiply in the soil. That was effective microorganisms. For more information about how to make and use EM, see Module 4, Healthy Soil. Compost and manure. Compost and manure help to supply nutrients and improve soil quality. On the land, they can be used in small amounts to supplement mulch and liquid fertilizer. If animals are housed at night, it will be much easier to collect large amounts of manure. Animals can also be fenced or tethered on the land in the dry season or before planting time, so they can directly fertilize the land. Green manure crops. Green manure crops are only grown for soil improvement and not as human food. These crops can be legumes, seasonal grasses, and other seasonal plants. Plant green manure crops between harvest time and planting time or on land between garden plots which is not being used. Green manure crops can also be integrated with animals. Bring animals onto the land when the green manure crops first begin to flower. The crops will provide nitrogen and some organic materials for the soil, and the animals will provide manure to fertilize the soil. So green manure crops and crops eaten by animals. Ground cover crops. Ground cover crops are crops that grow along the ground, covering it. These crops provide nutrients and organic matter for the soil and will help prevent weeds from growing because the ground cover crops block out sunlight needed for weed growth. Water storage and irrigation. For many farmers in Indonesia, crops are dependent on rain. Because of this, almost all agricultural crops are grown only during the wet season. However, there are two important ways to increase planting seasons: by storing and protecting water in the soil and by using good irrigation techniques. Storing and protecting water in the soil. Swales and terraces are a good way to catch and store water in the soil. This technique is good to use, both on flat land as well as on steeply sloped land. Mulch will protect water in the soil and stop the soil from becoming dry. Healthy, living soil will hold water better than unhealthy soil. Irrigation. Irrigation and good water management will provide many benefits, such as a continuous supply of water even during the dry season, such as improved water storage, such as directs water to where we want it to go. Make a complete plan before implementing an irrigation system. For large areas of land, it can take a lot of time and money to make, use, and manage irrigation systems well. Start small and then think about what you want in the future. Observe where water flows through your land and plan how to use water from one area to provide water for another area, working together with neighbors and community groups to make and maintain an irrigation system will save time, costs, and labor. Swales can be used for irrigation. Swales can easily be combined with aquaculture systems, paddies, and gardens. If you use swales for irrigation, make sure that the overflow points are well made to prevent erosion. Rocks or simple fences can also be used to manage water flow on swales. Tree swales, terraces. Using tree swales, terraces is a good method for improving production and soil quality while stopping erosion. A newly planted tree terrace. The process of making them: mark out contour lines about 5 meters apart on gentle slopes and 2 to 3 meters apart on steep slopes. Dig small swales on the contour lines. At the start of the wet season, plant legume seeds on top of the swales, about 3 to 5 centimeters apart. Legume trees like Leucaena are the best type to use. The legume trees will grow into a thick fence, which will eventually create swales and terraces. The legumes can be cut back 3 to 6 times during wet seasons and 1 to 2 times during dry seasons. Vegetables and other crops can be grown between the rows of trees, in the empty rows. For more information about tree swales and crops which can be planted in the empty rows, see Module 8, Forests, Tree Crops, and Bamboo. Vetiver grass can be grown on some rows instead of legumes. The vetiver plant has very deep roots, which will hold the soil together, and it will also produce lots of mulch material. Vetiver grass is especially good to use on very steep slopes. Using buffalo plows. Buffaloes can be used to prepare land for planting and for plowing contour lines. Buffaloes also provide income, meat, leather, manure, and more buffaloes. Buffaloes can be expensive, but they are able to work for a long time. Once a family, farmers group, or community has a male and female buffalo, there will eventually be a family, group, and community of buffalo. To work well, buffaloes must be healthy. Buffalo maintenance does not cost much, but it requires time. Food, water, shelter, and medical care are all important to maintain buffalo health. Buffaloes are commonly used for plowing land. Almost anyone can learn how to train buffalo and how to use buffalo plows. For more information about training and using buffaloes for plowing, see Module 10, Animal Systems. The results of buffalo plowing is good for plant growth because buffaloes plow the land in a straight line. Some people, by the way, folks, go for no-dig gardening and farming. All right, the results of buffalo plowing is good for plant growth because buffaloes plow the land in a straight line and don't turn the soil over and over again. Turning the soil many times will damage soil structure. Buffalo can be used on all types of land, from flat lands to very sloped lands. Buffaloes can also be kept anywhere, as long as there is water. Compare buffaloes to tractors. Using tractors take a lot less time to prepare land for planting and can work well for large areas of flat land. However, there are many other factors that must also be taken into consideration when deciding to use a tractor or not. Tractors are very expensive, too expensive for many people, even for farmer groups, but tractors can be rented as an alternative to buying one. Tractors cost money to maintain, including costs of fuel, oil, tires, and engine maintenance, and there needs to be someone that has a lot of knowledge about machines to operate one. Spare parts can be hard to find, and sometimes need to be imported from other countries. Tractors also need a storage house to be kept in. Tractors need lots of training to operate, and some types of tractors are more difficult to operate than cars. Almost all tractor plows turn the soil over and over again. This will help crops grow, but it will also damage soil structure. Therefore, soil quality will get worse over time, not better. There are many areas of Indonesia with flat land where tractors can be used. However, there are also many areas where it is not possible to use tractors because the roads are too narrow or cannot be passed during the wet season, or there is no road access. Reducing soil compaction. Soil compaction can cause many problems for agriculture, such as the soil will hold less water. Soil biota will reduce in number. The soil will contain less air. It will be more difficult for plant roots to grow, so they will grow closer to the surface. All these problems will cause plants to grow smaller and to use more water. Compacted soil causes plants to grow smaller. The following techniques can be used to reduce soil compaction. Use organic mulch and fertilizers. Unhealthy soil will easily become compacted as it dries. Healthy soil, which contains mulch and organic fertilizers, will dry slower, and when it does dry, the soil will not be as compacted. Use terraces and swales to shape the soil. Use buffalo plows because they will cause much less soil compaction than using tractors to plow the land. Avoid grazing too many large animals, like buffalo and cow, on your cropland. People can also cause soil compaction. Make garden walking paths and only use these paths when in the garden, so less areas of the garden will be stepped on. Intercropping. Intercropping means combining different types of crops in one area. There are many benefits of intercropping, and there are many different combinations of crops. The types of crops used and the way they are combined is up to you. Some combinations could be, one example is legume trees, small fruit trees, grains, and vegetables. Legume trees such as moringa and sesbania will provide shade, mulch, nitrogen, and animal fodder, and can even function as living fences and trellising, which can be used to grow vine plants. Fruit trees such as papaya, banana, and citrus can be grown together to reduce pest problems. Vegetables and grains can be grown in between these trees. Another combination, corn and peanuts. Corn will provide shade for the peanuts, and peanuts will provide nitrogen for the corn. Another example, cassava, small fruit trees, and legume trees. With this combination, all crops will receive benefits. And another combination is corn, pumpkins, and beans. This is a traditional combination that is commonly used in many countries. Mound rows with trenches dug in between is good for holding rainwater and for irrigation. The mounds can be used to plant different grains, vegetables, legume trees, and small fruit trees. The trenches can be used for planting water spinach, watercress, and taro. The mounds do not have to be straight. They should follow natural land patterns.